So, before we get into the session today, let's talk about the elephant in the room. What happened to my fighter? He was in the party in session 1, and by session 3, I said the party have already lost their fighter, yet there was never any mention of his death. How can this be? Well, it appears I have misplaced some audio somehow, and sadly, this audio is so misplaced that it is gone forever. But never mind, the event in question was quite minuscule, believe it or not, so for continuity I will provide the details now. Way back on turn 8, Lyria was searching for a secret door in a 50-foot by 30-foot chamber. The party had not come far at this point. They had entered the dungeon, passed through 2 secret doors, and over a trapdoor leading down to level 2. Moments after Lyria began her search for a secret door, which she eventually found, and it brought them into the chamber with the strength gas, a group of snakes slithered out of the trapdoor behind the party, following them into the 50-foot by 30-foot chamber. Luckily, Magnus, Thraena and Alden were standing guard as Lyria's searching was carried out, and they spotted the snakes without being surprised. The snakes were not much of a problem, but Magnus was very unlucky. He was the only one who was bitten, and the bite killed him outright. So, with that cleared up, let's continue the delve. The party head east down a long passage, but as it stretches ahead, the space is filled with a strange gas, obscuring any visibility. So the party turn back, unwilling to risk it. The party moved back through the previous chamber and into the wide northern passage. No wandering monsters. They continue up the passage until they come to the door on the north wall as the passage begins to turn east. 2 characters attempt to force the door. It will not move an inch, so they must break it down. The noise attracts no fiends. Beyond the door is a parallel east-west passage. The party follow it east until the passage turns northwest after about 60 feet. At the 10-foot space connecting the 2 passages, the party rest for a full turn. No wandering monsters appear. The party follow the northwestern passage, which ends at a door. Lyria listens, and hears nothing beyond. Alden and Finnick try to force the door, and fail, so are once again forced to break it down. They manage without disturbance. In fact, so far, the party have showed some great skill in busting down doors without generating too much noise. Perhaps the dry, dense air of the areas around some of these doors has been acting as an effective dampening of the sound, which loses itself as it attempts to travel down the twisting, maze-like passages of the underworld. Beyond the door is a 40-foot by 40-foot room. Someone did hear the noise this time and chose to be silent in order to gain surprise. They succeeded in doing so. Beyond the door, 4 bandits await, ready to ambush the party. The bandits are of neutral alignment. They will attempt to grapple the first character through the door and hold a blade to their throat. Four attempts to grapple with 1 success. The grappling bandits roll 1 die versus Alden's 1 die. The bandit rolls higher, so Alden is secured as a hostage. The party wins the initiative for the first round, following surprise. They will attempt to calm the situation and lure the bandits into service. Although Alden has the highest charisma, he is lawful, so it is Alara who will try to bring the bandits into service. She will get no bonus for charisma, so will rely heavily on the offer made. Let's put some cash on the line. Alara will lay down 400 gold pieces to bring these bandits into service. She will gain a +4 to the bandits' reaction roll. 15. The bandits are enthusiastic, so we'll begin with loyalty +3. I rule it takes a turn to organise themselves. Let's have a time out to discuss the method I use to handle luring a monster into service with treasure. To handle this in solo play, I've worked out some additional mechanics. I based these mechanics on the treasure type for the monsters as detailed in Monsters and Treasure. The first ruling I made is that monsters of treasure type C cannot be lured into service with treasure, as these types of monsters do not usually carry much value in terms of gold pieces, excluding the ogre, which I will address at a later time as required. For all others, I take the treasure type of the monster in question, find the maximum of gold pieces possible from the thousands of gold pieces column from the treasure type table. I then divide this number by the minimum amount of monsters appearing for the monster I am attempting to lure. The logic behind this is that it represents a typical share value of treasure for one typical monster from a larger group. So this share value is the amount of gold pieces in value that the offer needs to be to obtain the best possible chance of successfully luring the monster into service. For example, a warrior is treasure type A. The minimum number of warriors appearing is 30. Treasure type A can result in a maximum of 12,000 gold pieces. 12,000 divided by 30 is 400. Therefore, 400 gold pieces would provide the best possible chance of luring the warrior into service. But, if you recall, in OD&D, luring a monster into service basically boils down to a reaction roll, with bonuses applied based on the offer made. How is this handled? With a simple table that determines what the bonus or penalty will be based on the percentage of the best offer. Here's a couple of examples. If I offer just 30% of the 400 gold pieces, which is just 120 gold pieces, then there will be a -1 penalty to the reaction roll. If I offer 75%, which is 300 gold pieces, then I will gain a +2 bonus. Charisma bonuses and penalties should also be taken into account. Overall, with charisma adjustments included, there is a maximum bonus of +8 to the roll, which will guarantee success, but not loyalty, or a maximum penalty of -5, which at best would make the NPC uncertain. But what happens if you want to lure a monster and just don't have much gold and would like to offer a share of the treasure acquired instead? You can handle this by dividing the best offer by the average treasure share. I have created a table for this. The figures in the table are based on how much treasure is needed to level. I chose the character class with the lowest XP requirements at each level and divided this by a ratio of 120 to account for a diverse party with an average number of hirelings. The calculations were fairly complex, probably overly so, but their sole purpose is to provide an average share of treasure in gold pieces value that might be acquired from a single foray into a dungeon. Each level of the dungeon has a different average share. The maths is probably overkill, and this table could also easily be devised in a more ad hoc way based on what you might expect to take in gold at a particular dungeon level based on your own experience. The way the table works is this. If offering a percentage of shares from the treasure recovered during the adventure, then calculate what percentage the average treasure share is of the best offer. You can then consult this percentage on the previous table I talked about to determine the bonus or penalty to the roll. For example, on dungeon level 1, a warrior might expect to receive about 75 gold pieces in treasure as an average share if in a full party of adventurers and hirelings. 75 is 18% of 400. This would mean an offer of an average share would result in a -2 penalty to the roll. If the stakes were higher, because the party was on level 2 of the dungeon, the expected average share would be higher at around 150 gold pieces. 150 is 37% of 400, so this offer would result in a -1 penalty to the roll. So, this is the method I use currently. It will probably be tweaked over time with playtesting. Feel free to give it a try in your own games. No wandering monster. The party exit the chamber through a curving passage on the northeast wall that curves around to the north and intersects 30 feet ahead with an east-west passage. The party move east 30 feet ahead until they come to the northeast-southeast junction, at which they choose to go southeast and move along the corridor until they reach the door on the right wall, and then they stop to take this hour's rest for a turn. No wandering monsters appear as they prepare to continue their exploration of the underworld. They move up to the door. Ilara instructs the bandits to pry it open. They push it open into a 40-foot by 20-foot room with a door straight ahead and to the left. They move up to the door on the left wall, and once again the bandits are instructed to step forward and force it open, which they do without issue, revealing another room of equal dimensions, but this time with 3 doors on the left wall. The room appears empty, so they abandon it for now and return to the other door in the previous room. They open it, pass over the threshold, and move south 50 feet. The party come to a dead end, and so they are forced to turn back. They return north and back to the door, which has now closed behind them. This time, Alden and Lyria step forward to open. And once the door yields to their weight, an iron spike is wedged in to hold the door. And the spike remains in place. They attempt to retrace their steps by returning back through the door on the opposite wall, which has, of course, slammed shut also. Alden and Lyria cannot force this one to open again. The party begin to break the door down. Alden tries to weaken the frame by slamming his mace against the edges of the door as the bandits keep pushing against it. The door is slowly weakening and will take a turn, but the noise echoes throughout the maze. The noise provokes a small band of monsters, and as the party are moving through the broken doorway, to their right, heading up the corridor towards them, are 3 hobgoblins leading 3 giant rats on crude leads made from thick rope. Luckily, the party are not surprised. The monsters are 40 foot distant. The rats are led like pets, ready to attack on command. The monsters win the initiative. The hobgoblin masters are hesitant. They guard the passage, but stand their ground. The party are going to use missile fire to do what damage they can while they are still at a safe distance from the hobgoblins, who do not appear to be carrying any ranged weapons. Ilara's bandits are the first to cross the threshold. One bandit, a bowman, will stand just beyond, not moving, so he may fire twice. Lyria swiftly moves to the opposite side of the passage for a better position, and she can split move and fire. The rest of the party will move into the passage, surrounding Ilara to protect her. I will rule for a level 1 dungeon that the giant rats will have 2 hit dice and armor class 8. Lyria, who makes her split move and fire while the rest of the party are still moving into position, gets off an arrow, but her shot misses. The rest of the party now complete their moves, and the hobgoblins let the rats off their leashes and hang back. 2 of the rats will gang up on the bowman, who is still drawing his bow, and the other rat sees Lyria as the main threat. The bowman, as he did not move, may give pass-through fire upon the rats as they are charging. with his range determined at the half movement portion. He hits one of the rats. The rat that took the wound has 7 hit points and takes just 1 damage as the arrow barely grazes its flesh. Lyria is 1+1 hit die and the rat is 2 hit die, so just 1 exchange of blows is permitted in the melee. The rat is the attacker, so strikes the first blow. It tries to claw at Lyria but misses. Lyria also misses with her return blow. The other rats get a total of 4 attacks against the bowman, as they have 2 hit dice each against his single hit die. Three hits. And with a single hit point, he is very easily slain. The monsters gain initiative on the second round. The 2 rats, still with the bowman's blood dripping from their claws and teeth, will turn their attention to Alden and the bandit with chain and shield. The hobgoblins stay back, amused at the spectacle. One of the Lightfoot bandits moves forward to help Alden in melee. A rat attacks Lyria again. A hit and a kill. The party have lost their elf. One rat makes 2 attacks against Alden. 1 hit. 3 damage is another kill. He falls under the sharp claws and teeth of the frantic beast. The cleric is no more. The third rat makes 2 attacks against chain and shield with a single hit. 4 hit points versus 6 damage is another kill. The bandit screams in agony as he is torn to shreds. The Lightfoot bandit will now melee with one of the rats. He misses. So does the rat. A post-melee morale check would probably be appropriate here for the remaining bandits, having lost half their force, but the whole party are going to flee combat, so this won't be necessary. Lucky for them, they have the initiative for the third round and will use their movement to flee right up to the top of the corridor, dropping rations as they try to escape. The rats are of low intelligence, so there will be a 90% chance the rations will distract them. The plan is a success. As soon as the party breach a 90-foot difference, they stop fleeing.